Alright, hello everyone, my name is Disc, and in this video we have a 15 Ruby Life pools, and for the last video of the expansion we are Fortified, Incorporeal, and Sanguine. So I think a lot of this video, if anyone watches it, will still have a lot of information that can carry over, such as our baseline rotation with our Torments and our Mindbender, along with cooldown usage, timing of spells, UI elements, etc. And I do want to keep my intros a little bit shorter, but I think it's really important to cover talents. So here is the build that I ran for this key. And I do have changes on both sides, which I wanted to cover. Starting on the priest side, Dominate Mind, that's for Incorporeal. Shackle might be a little bit safer. I am going this choice node. I think it really helps with our spot healing. Probably the damage reduction is the right answer moving forward. Also, I play Vampiric Embrace, user's choice. I play Translucent Image. I macro this with Desperate Prayer, makes it really easy. I play Divine Star instead of Halo. I think an instant cast versus a cast spell is the answer for Mythic Plus. And I will talk about Star more in a moment. And then I also opt to go a little bit more defensive with these 2 points and Tithe Evasion. I think a lot of people go Words of the Pious, but I just don't do that. And then over on the discipline side, the biggest change here is our Rapture, which we'll talk about. But we are a Mindbender build. We're all about our Torments. Baseline for Torments is 6. You can get 7 and 8, and that is with our deaths. But baseline is 6, and that has to be a rotation that you're really comfortable with, which includes Divine Star. So something happened with the way our Mindbender is timed, and we don't have as much time anymore to get our Torments, and it's really easy to drop your 6th Torment and lower your average, which is a lot of output lost, a lot of damage, a lot of CDR. It's just a lot of loss. So what I was doing is dropping the star in order to get my Torments, but that's not really what we want to do. So a solution I found is I put 1 point into Borrowed Time, which I think is really all we need. So the most important part of Shadow Covenant is the opener, which is Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death, then Penance. That will put all of your Torment spells on cooldown to get your opener rolling. And it's kind of the hardest part to do with the Mindbender being a dead global and then Mind Blast being a cast. And the Borrowed Time helps just enough for 4 seconds to kind of get over that hump and get all of your Torment spells on cooldown. So casting a shield before my rotation is really going to help with my opener and ensure I get all of my Torments. And then Rapture is the kind of the MVP of the week. So with Borrowed Time, I'm forced to kind of go +2 right here, which is, I think, a good play. It's a great spell. And the biggest change, I think Rapture is finally in a place where this is what it should have been all along. It's pretty similar, but just better. And the biggest qualms I had with it in the past is the first shield of Rapture did not interact with Body and Soul, nor did it interact with Will and Woe, which is kind of the play now. So I really like Will and Woe. There's really not much to it. And especially since our shields are buffed baseline by 30% now, we can get our penance stacked and get these hella shields that will really just fully mitigate attacks. And now that it pairs with Rapture, which isn't a short cooldown anymore, you can kind of find this cycle where you penance Rapture, cast a few spells, penance Rapture, cast a few spells, and you can get these extra buff shields, which honestly cover a full health bar. So before I ramble any further, let's go ahead and clip over to the key. Alright, here we go. And I'm going to splash the DPS, pause it if you need to. 141,000 overall, which is pretty good. And a focus in this key for a viewer. Pay close attention to how I'm managing my targeting. I'm using focus targets with my Schism. And let's also pay really close attention to my Mindbender rotation. That is something that will carry over. I'm getting all 6 Torments, and not just his rotation, but the timing of his rotation. So notice the big rock guy is the darkest red. That is absolutely who we want to focus our damage on. Navigated back to him. Here's Lust. Guys out. My shield and then go into my Mindbender. So I'm banking on that borrowed time. I shield right before my rotation just to get my first round of Torment spells on cooldown. Switching my targets to pick up extra executes. And that was 7 of 8 Torments. Okay, Mindbender is back. I think I go for a second one. Yep. Switch targets for the execute. Navigate back to my Schism for my penance. So targeting is a really good skill to develop, and it really makes a big difference as a Disc Priest. The better you are with targeting, the more output you're going to have, and the more success you're going to have. We always want to make sure our penance is landing on a mob with a dot, and we want to pick up executes whenever we can, especially if our Mindbender's out. Also, I've added a couple of UI elements. If you notice above my target frame, there is a white box or a dot. And that's, I find things that are really important to track, like the presence of my dot, I'd rather it be in a fixed location rather than on a nameplate, which is mobile. Also, a lot of fear opportunities in this front area. You'll notice that trumpet sound with my UI. But I think the rest of our team kind of managed the interrupts themselves. Keeping everything soothed.
If only you could have understood the righteous, I will not allow you to.
So a pretty standard opener is get dots out, get atonements out, Radiance, Shield, Shadow Covenant. I'll put Dominate Mind. Sometimes your opener takes a little bit longer to get into, like this one. Radiance, Shield, and Mindbender. Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death, Penance. Puts all of your Torment spells on cooldown really quickly. And then all you do is Smite and fill in the gaps with your Torment spells when they come back available. And this guy being so powerful, I get 3 Mindbenders on him. And got my extra executes. Let's see how many Torments I get on this one. Looks like I fumbled a little bit. 7 Torments. Pretty good. Yeah, and I've been trying to get better uptime with my Mind Blast. So it's something that you can pretty freely use because it will reset its timer on its own. So I got 2 Mindbenders here, and I throw a Mind Blast just to polish that guy off. And a pretty successful first run of it, and now we have a boss. Not too difficult, non-tyrannical. I just want to play your spells as they come. And it does make a difference if you're the one picked. So here in the beginning, I don't like playing Mindbender, I'm holding. But I will play Mind Blast just for some extra output. This first round, since I was picked, I'm using Rapture. Radiance, Shield, Mindbender. I led with my Dark Divine Star just to get the damage grab. I got 5 Torments there, not my best. There's extra things having to happen. So I really prefer Barrier on that attack versus the Whelps. Here goes Mindbender. Potentially a little bit early, but I think we have full coverage here. Yeah, we were fine. 6 Torments and a Dark Star. So always glancing at my cooldowns to see what I have available before an attack. No externals, but we do have a Mindbender, which is enough. And execute range. So when it comes to my rotation, I try and get to my second penance before I break from attacking. And that's for two reasons. If you've properly ramped with long atonements, the group will have coverage already. And that's also the short window where your schism's out. So I really try and do my Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death penance, smite, 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 smite penance. And at this point, when my Mind Blast and Schism is wearing off and my atonements are wearing off, at that point is when I'll work in a Radiance. So oftentimes you have to kind of break from that ideal, and that's just comes with skill. But I try and delay my Radiance to the back half of my window, which is going to be the rotation coming up in the War Within. So here we have a Hella Gauntlet, and one really important utility button for us here is Fear, which we just saw. I'm tracking the Flame Dance from the humans. And then the next most important thing is having your focus target on the Destroyer and tracking his Inferno cast, which is where we want to place our Mindbender. And you'll notice on his nameplate, I have one spell queued in to track the timer of the Inferno. That is all that matters. And we see the Living Bomb and Party flashing as a red. There's a Rapture. So that was a tricky play. I think the other ones play out a little bit better as far as my rotation. Get a quick purge.
Well done.
Grip Tutor for the win.
Secure the first pool. Now see to the others.
So going into the next Destroyer pull, I'm glancing at my spells. I have Pain Sups. Barrier is almost up. Rapture will be up soon as well. And Vampiric Embrace. And we do play Firebird. The way he goes, he pops off at 50%. Radiance for the proc, Shield for the haste. And I send a Mindbender on pull. Actually not quite on pull, he's already at 60%. Smite all the way to my second penance, and I keep smiting. So 6 torments, and my Mindbender is only 2 seconds away. So that's kind of the ideal rotation where as one Mindbender is ending, the next one is available. And that's because I got all of those smites. And things will be changing without the double CDR. But that's still kind of an ideal rotation. Okay, I set my focus early on the Destroyer. Use my Keybind to navigate back to the Destroyer. I ramped my dots. I ramped my atonements. I precast a Radiance. Here's our Mindbender window. So my dot has faded. Ooh, all dots faded. Six torments. Quick shield on myself before the damage went out. So that was not the best example. You know, obviously there's going to be failure everywhere you go. But the ideal play is I didn't have dots drop off there. What you want to do with your penance is your first penance and your second penance will, your focus target will have a dot on them already. But by the time you get to the third penance, your dot's going to have faded. And you have to switch targets, penance them to spread the dot, and then navigate back to your focus target. Okay, so let's see how I play this one. I have a huge Wheel and Woe stack into a Rapture, which covered my full health bar. Might want to replay that one. So a Rapture into a Mindbender. Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death, then Penance. Okay, so my dot has now faded. Switch targets, and I preserve my dots. So if anyone's wondering, I have... That comes up. I have a macro to set focus when I'm casting Mind Blast. And then I have my mouse button 5, that's the tip of my thumb on my mouse, is set just to return target to focus. Fumbled a little bit with my opener. Let's see how many torments I get. We're at 4. I got 4. So not the best window. I think that just goes to show that we don't have as much room anymore. We just don't have as much time anymore. Quick fear bomb there. Urge. Always casting a Radiance in between combat. It's a really great time to start charging up. Set my focus early. Penance. Barrier. So we're in a bad spot again where I've lost all my dots. But CDR in this moment is more important than refreshing a dot, so I'm just smiting. And I got the elusive 8 torments there.
The last pool is safe. She is exposed. Attack that primal.
Okay, so now we have boss.
Before she can summon
Not much to it, non-tyrannical. I think knowing the dance is probably the most important element here. All we really want to do is time our Mindbender with the spawn. So I shield myself just for some extra defense on that first hit. Penance into Rapture. And I had Mindbender there, but I voted for Rapture first because I had Pain Sups on cooldown. So if you ever have a Pain Sup on cooldown as a prime time for Rapture, it reduces the cooldown by like 15 seconds. So I have a shield on myself. We have a proc loaded. Shield myself again for the haste. Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death, Penance. Then I'm smiting all the way to my second Penance. I switch my targets to the ad even though he's dying. That way, when you Penance the ad, it refreshes the dot on the boss, and you save a global. And with big wigs, one of my philosophies is when tracking timers of attacks, it really only matters attacks that you have to time your Mindbender with, or maybe Rapture with. So I have it limited just to the ritual here. Seven torments. So I polish it off with just a quick Schism. Pretty free spell to toss around, especially if you have
Vile monster. I protect these life pools.
a move next. Okay, so we're back to Fortified. Really important that I set my focus quickly. And I have the channeler here, the darkest red, that's KUI nameplates, helping me keep an eye on whom I need to attack. I cast a shield on myself going into my Mindbender. And talking about timers and having just one thing to track, you know, the one thing that pertains to timing your spells. With these mobs as well, you'll notice I have on their nameplate one icon, and that's their thunder attack. Execute, execute. Divine Star. You also may have noticed I have all my scrolling combat text off, except for my Divine Star. I turned it back on. I think it's kind of helpful to use that feature some. There's an off Mindbender Schism. Yeah, I don't think it's bad functionality to see scrolling combat text, but I just don't think you need it for everything. Okay, the Tempest Chandler. Look at her timer on this spell. Into a Rapture. Goes Mindbender. So 15 seconds on the next attack. Noticing the nameplate. With Discipline, it's all about your Mindbender, and more importantly, it's about timing your Mindbender correctly. So you really have to see these elements, or you'll just be left to guessing. She's healing with Sanguine. There's my Mindbender. Double execute on the front. Let's see how many torments I get. And I'm usually letting my first penance channel all the way. I got 7 torments. I usually let my first penance channel all the way. But I'm clipping my second and third penance with discretion. Let's watch how this one goes. So her attack happens pretty much on pull, so you have to be ready with the atonements already in group. I want to dot her, and then just go straight into Mindbender. But let's watch how this goes. So we have a failed mechanic here. Shield myself and Paints Up. Should have just saved it. So her mechanic, she absorbs the shields of those around her. And I did watch the replay. I think maybe the Mage accidentally targeted those guys, but it was the worst timing. They came in with shields right as she was casting. So it was a rip. She had a massive shield on her that we could not get through in time. Caused a wipe. But we get it next time. Something I'm already thinking is my Mindbender's at 20 seconds. I have Rapture, I have Barrier. I have 0 Paints Ups. So Rapture is going to be a good play just to help refresh Paints Up. What if I did that? For Shadow Meld. We open with the Radiance just for the proc. I get a dot out. Shield Wall. Five seconds on next attack. Need a Rapture. So I left my Rapture pending. I waited for a Penance to get the Wheel of Mode proc. And then I cast an extra shield to give it... I think that one had 80% increase on it, so... Okay, I have Barrier, 1 Paints Up. Rapture will be back shortly. Just putting single purges on these guys. And this boss I think was pretty clean for us. Non-tyrannical, but as ranged, we do want to be on the bird. So I shield to expedite my opener. It really does a lot to get your torments on cooldown quicker. Have 4 seconds of increased haste. Wanting to keep a Dispel on the tank as well. And I have that Cloudburst coming up in white. It is really important to see that cast in a fixed location, because it will interrupt you. Who's inside the dragon here? Orange. Okay, I didn't get that much CDR, and I didn't get that many torments either. Here we have a phase transition, so PI. There it goes. Penance into another Rapture Shield. Left wall covered. So those shields totally covered the two of us. I'm really loving the Rapture. I think it should have always been like this. I'm so happy it now synergizes with the rest of our talent book. Barrier for style. And that was it. So I think there's a lot of really good examples here where we can focus on rotation, making sure we're lining up our Mindbender with the appropriate incoming damage. It's a rotation that's going to carry over into the expansion, and it's kind of the meat of our spec with these torments. We need to aim for a baseline of always getting 6, and then kind of shooting for that 7th and 8th with our extra executes. So that's going to carry over things like UI elements, keeping things decluttered, using our nameplates for executes, using our nameplates for spreading our dot with penance, and really utilizing targeting to take our spec to the next level. So thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a fun ride during Dragonflight. I'm pretty excited to see what is in store for us. Please keep an eye out for some future videos to come. I want to start the expansion off with a couple of good ones that can kind of hopefully stick around for a while. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, Disc.